I apologize in advance for the flickering water on this map. Not a lot I can do about it. I also apologize to all the deck gunners that I have denigrated over the years. Deck gunners is one of those units that I'm not that big of a fan of myself personally. They're weapons teams, they're 24 model count, long range, kind of like Gisele's. They've got the shield breaker trait, 245 range. Pretty good ammunition. They're zombies though, so they're painfully slow and extremely weak in combat, but they do offer some long-range pressure that's kind of distributed across the field, and this is a matchup that can be potentially a little bit tough for up against the Dwarfs. Again, please ignore this flickering water as much as you can. I know it makes my eyes bleed, but anyway. Yeah, Dwarfs can be a tough matchup. It can be tricky to outshoot them, and cannons are somewhat vulnerable in that counterfire role because their model count is limited, right? There's only 3 cannons. If one gets taken out, that's a third of the unit gone instantly, and it can from a single return cannon volley from the Dwarfs, right? Also, if the cannon starts crumbling, the crew, I should say, starts crumbling, the cannon itself will actually take the crumble damage as well and can detonate all 3 pieces in relatively short order. So taking deck gunners and spreading them across the field, one thing is they're, slow and weak in melee. Against the Dwarfs, that's not so much of a factor because you can forward pressure them, and like here, Quitaro, the person that sent this in, has Count Noctilus leading the way, a bunch of Sirens, and maybe the encoder's dying a little bit. But anyway, if we take a look at the Dwarf build here, out in the distance, Ungrim Iron Fist leading the way, also got an Engineer. Looks like we've got some deck dropper handguns that have already flown over and are trying to avoid looking into the flickering water before they die. We've got some cannons here, again, providing some counterfire, Giant Slayers, Quarrelers, and Longbeards up front with the Master Engineer for that flash bomb. Anyway, so the nice thing is that, again, forward attack here with the Sirens means that they can come in and kind of apply pressure to the Dwarven formation while these deck gunners sit back and shoot. And it appears if I am closer to the water that it's actually better, so we have no choice but to get close-ups of these foul zombies as they approach. I do have to say, though, the guy in the back, this guy in particular, looks like he's having a great time in general. Anyway. But the nice thing is that, like in comparison to the cannons, back to that discussion, the deck gunners, as they lose models, they're going to lose a percentage of their shooting power, right? Like a model dies, it's, 1/24 of their power is gone, but it's only 1/24 rather than 1/3, right? And a cannonball might take out a couple of models in one shot, but it's still a lot less damage would be done than if it were to hit a cannon directly, right? Anyway, Noctilus going to be dropping some heat on, and we're going to get nice and close once again, trying to avoid the flickering water curse as Ungrim pushes Noctilus back. Noctilus definitely does not want to fight Ungrim in melee in any way, shape, or form, so he's going to try and avoid that. He's also taking a ton of Quarreler fire straight to the face. Quarrelers do have pretty good armor-piercing damage, so that hurts a lot, but Sirens are getting in there now and starting to disrupt. We're also going to have a Pit of Shades thrown on these Quarrelers, so all this pressure applied from a distance, these deck gunners, you can see the only way the Dwarfs have of reaching out and counter-firing is, of course, with the cannons, but anyway, let's stay close. You'll see the deck gunner shots raining in from a distance. Nice Pit of Shades there. Might have done a little bit of friendly damage to the Sirens that charged into its radius, but not too much, and the Terror definitely takes hold. The Sirens' melee attack debuff also means that most Dwarf units are essentially going to be dealing no damage in melee, so even like these summoned zombie deckhands are going to be relatively fine. Noctilus, though, is not fine. He is definitely having to run for his absolute life. Ungrim is maybe faster. Yeah, with Foe Seeker he's faster. Without it, he is not. But Noctilus desperately healing himself and just running to the hills. Okay, I think we're good now. Anyway, Doggos charging in here. They're going to disrupt some of that artillery crew, try and chase them off. Any units which get terrified off as well, the Scurvy Dogs can come in and chase. Deck Droppers also staying at a distance where they're not going to be in too much danger. But we take a look at the value. I'm going to try and avoid the flickering water as much as I can here. Yeah, these deck gunners taking some counterfire here, but probably generated pretty good value so far. Yeah, 285 there. Probably not the most on these other ones either, but of course the shield breaker does help somewhat. Yeah, 240, 250. They still have more than half their ammunition left though, so definitely still plenty of time to continue firing. 500 value there. Those guys doing a little bit better. But if we take a look at the Dwarven kind of defensive position here, you'll see their units are starting to get worn down. I mean, the Sirens have taken damage. Of course, they're so squishy that, you know, the range fire doesn't care about the melee defense melee attack debuff rather, and like Giant Slayers have high enough melee attack and weapon strength that they could just hit Sirens even with the debuffs, right? So they're doing totally fine here. Meanwhile, the rest of the army, Engineer still sitting pretty as well. The Doggos do come in and clean up some units. Shattering both artillery crews is fantastic. Ungrim Iron Fist getting bogged down in deckhand summons, though, as Noctilus comes through the woods, having made his way all the way up and around the formation and just continuing his journey into the Shadowlands there. A handful of Sirens still left here. They are crumbling, but continuing to debuff and apply a tiny bit of terror. Most of the Sirens pulled back, and this is the nice thing is, you know, this forward pressure can play for space as well. The Sirens using their mobility, and the fact that these deck gunners are so spread out across the battlefield to now play for space, allow deck gunners even more time to fire. Right now they're targeting the Giant Slayers, which is definitely the right call, no question about that. Those high-value infantry... yeah, I mean, despite the fact they have no missile block chance for the shield breaker to break, it's totally fine. I mean, they're just straight up eating the damage, right? Again, armor piercing not super applicable, but it is the most high value infantry unit yet remaining. You could try and concentrate fire on Ungrim Iron Fist, and we may see them switch onto him in the late game especially. But right now, just trying to thin out all of the Dwarven infantry support units, which is definitely the right call. Sirens moving in once again, these Longbeards. If we take a look... yeah, man, they're just getting savaged by those deck gunners shooting into the side of the unit there. The Sirens are probably going to come in and instantly rout them. Yeah, just about. Sorry, guys, I really got to figure out what exactly is causing those giant encoding lag spikes. But anyway, it seems to be fine most of the time, and then randomly it will just die a horrible death. Anyway, the Giant Slayers here eating some more of the foul, whatever, Tide Call from, I forget what it's actually called, from Noctilus, the little bombardment there. But anyway... deck gunners still have plenty of ammunition here, still have plenty of ammunition here and here, so there's still plenty of time to continue to work. This one's just about out of volleys, only 3 volleys left there, but let's see what they concentrate fire on. It looks like Ungrim is now going to be the subject. The zombies are relatively accurate deck guns, but they're not super accurate when shooting just a regular foot character like this, so I mean, we'll see if Ungrim is able to... sustain this. It looks like that cannon model is actually blocking a few shots there, which is kind of nice, but yeah, they're not so accurate that they can effectively hit Ungrim at this maximum range. If they were to come a little bit closer, they'd probably get a higher percentage of hits, but the handgun zombies are close enough, the handgun deck droppers, I should say, are definitely close enough to get effective damage. You do have to watch out for a little bit of Quarreler counterfire, but yeah, they can continue to poke away at Ungrim there. Balance power still very, very close. Giant Slayers just about got finished off. They got 1 model left with 18 hit points. But deck gunners are just about out of ammo. This unit, yeah, 1 volley, 2 volleys, 5 volleys, and 5 volleys. So getting very low on ammunition across the board. Likewise, the Engineer also just about out of ammunition. I'm not sure what he's been shooting at the whole time, to be honest, but anything is a good target. He could probably pick away some models of these deck dropper handguns, which I think is probably what he's been doing, but anyway. Scurvy Dogs still maneuvering around the woods. Their Strider trait means they can effectively chase, you know, through the trees more effectively than other units would if they didn't have Strider at the very least, but we'll fast forward a little bit through this phase as the Dwarfs pursue into the deck gunner box. You can see those Giant Slayers just getting worn down over time, doing some damage to the Sirens certainly, but getting tanked out pretty well. And then the deck gunners just using up the last of their ammunition. Likewise, the deck dropper handguns, once they don't face as intensive counterfire, they're going to come in. The Engineer will do his best to apply some counter pressure, but they are going to wear down Ungrim over time. And then Noctilus should be able to come in and finish him in the late game. Noctilus is still hanging around out here somewhere. Yeah, it's close to his healing cap. Not quite there, but getting closer. And the Engineer's leadership at this point just really not doing great as he takes a couple of hits as well. Ungrim getting so low is basically triggering army losses at this point. It's just Ungrim himself that's left. So Quintaro going to go ahead and tastefully get a nice full surround here.